I'm a friend of Sarah Connor. I was told that she's here. Could I see her, please?
No, can't see her. She's making a statement. Look, it may take a while. You want to wait? There's a bench over there.
I'll be back.
Hey folks, this is Monk and we are back with another episode of Classics of Cinematics, and I'm joined as always with my co-host Bobby Blockbuster.
Yo!
Yeah, so today we got a really good film. We're going to be talking about Terminator from 1984. This is directed by James Cameron. In this film, disguised as a cyborg assassin known as Terminator, travels from 2029 to 1984 to kill Sarah Connor. Sent to protect Sarah is Kyle Reese, who divulges the coming of Skynet, an artificial intelligence system that will spark a nuclear holocaust. Sarah is targeted because Skynet knows that her unborn son will lead the fight against them. With the virtually unstoppable Terminator in hot pursuit, she and Kyle attempt to escape. Yeah, so this film, it premiered in October 26th of 1984, and our main stars in this thing are going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. We've also got Linda Hamilton, who plays Sarah Connor, and Michael Biehn, who plays Kyle Reese, that goes back to save her. So let's get into this thing, man. Let's start with this story.
Yeah. So, there's really nothing bad to say about this movie. This is one of the most original films to come out in the 80s, you know what I'm saying? And the story is actually the high point, you know what I'm saying? And what I love about it most is it's delivered in like this dual form, you know what I'm saying? Where you got the sci-fi element where they talk about, your cyborgs, your time travel, and, this distant future, right?
Yeah.
But then you get this thriller aspect where like the whole first half an hour of the film, you're watching these two guys that are hawking Sarah Connor, and we don't really know why yet. And I like how they don't really just give it all to us right out the gate, you know what I'm saying? Like, but then when they do decide to start, giving us a little bit more info of what's going on, really, that's even delivered in a very fast pace. Like, when Kyle Reese actually starts getting into the meat and potatoes of what really is going on, he tells her when they're in a high-speed car chase. So it's kind of like the way this story starts off, it's like almost like holding your breath and running a 40-yard dash at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost kind of like, I feel like we've seen this setup before, but we haven't seen it done in this way with the extra elements added to it. Basically, you've got someone who must be protected. It could be a witness or a special, whatever, from assassins. And we've seen films like that where, our crew, and they try to stay one step ahead, but to make this assassin a cyborg, you know what I'm saying,
right,
sent from the future, it adds crazy dimensions to it. It ticks off a lot of boxes. You get the action adventure box. You also get the sci-fi box because of the technology, the time travel, those fantasy elements. And, like you said, the thriller and suspense because it's like a white knuckle. It's like this threat is on her the whole movie, pretty much, essentially, once, he shows up and actually confronts her. And it's crazy how it unfolds, man. I think the story, that's why the story endures. It has all of those elements, plucking at it. I feel like other films, in the past took certain elements of those and did them individually in films, but combining all this stuff together allows for fun stuff. It's like a genre mashup,
And another thing I think really works for this story is it high points the villain. This is not a hero story. This story actually really revolves around the Terminator. And, we don't get a lot of movies in this likeness that take this approach. You know what I'm saying? They normally, they'll highlight the villain, but then the main focal point is the hero, whereas this is kind of done in reverse. And I think that's what really pushes this through.
That kind of helped make this become a blockbuster because Arnold was kind of, making some waves, but to take this role playing the villain, which he reluctantly didn't want to do at first. He's used to being, the hero, he thought this would be bad for his image, but it worked out. And the way they even marketed, putting him to the forefront, Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator.
Look at that cover art.
Like that's crazy, man. And it became this iconic classic. Let's get into these characters, man. I think we should probably start with Sarah Connor, played by Linda Hamilton. And what's cool about her, she's just a regular woman, just looks like maybe early 20s, just trying to figure out life. She's got her, diner job. apartment with a roommate, and she's just really, you know, at that phase of life where we're all seems like we're stepping out on our own for the first time and just trying to make things work. And all of a sudden, it's crazy. You know, I kind of like her characterization because, like I said, she's just a typical young woman at this time. Not really a lot of serious stuff to worry about. Maybe making her rent, you know, and stuff like that. She's probably dating guys and trying to figure stuff out. But then in the middle of this, we get this crazy situation going on where all of a sudden, every woman named Sarah Connor in this area starts getting murdered. You know what I'm saying?
By how their names appear in the damn phone book.
Yeah.
Come on now.
And she's probably fortunate just because she wasn't number one
that
she's getting wind of this and having time to make adjustments. So she's got this fear hanging on her. And honestly, I like her transformation. She's kind of helpless in the beginning, not knowing what's what. And this is the crazy part to me, man. The way that Kyle Reese is able to convince her and unload on her everything that's going down. And all of us, by the end of this movie, she becomes someone who's taking agency. She's stepping up. She's trying to be in control of her own fate. She's not just going to wait and see what happens to her. You know, I think that's a cool characterization for her, and carrying on into the sequels of this film, this plants the seeds for how she becomes in like T2 and the other ones, you know?
Well, you know, because I mean, she is cut out of the same mold that we got from Ellen Ripley. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it works in every way. As a matter of fact,
I still got Ripley a little bit ahead of her.
Absolutely.
I posed this question online. End of the world, stuff's hitting the fan. Who you gonna go with, Ripley or Sarah Connor? And I think I'm gonna go with Ripley because Sarah's a little wild. She's a free radical.
That's it.
We'll get into the future movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like the difference is I feel like Ripley was more aware from the beginning than Sarah is in this film, you know, but they both end up in the same spot by the end of the movie.
And they both bully up when need to. And you know, with Sarah Connor, you know, the thing with her is I don't think she reaches the point that she reaches in the film without Michael Bihn's character, Kyle Reese. Because he comes through. Without him, the film also doesn't work because he is the one who does know everything that's going on. He's the one who comes back to save her. And also, in the same process of saving her life and knocking her up, he has to coach her up to be ready to fight. He puts her in the position to, you know, to fight this war that she is going to end up, you know, being the front soldier on the front lines until her son is brought up to life. Like,
there's some interesting stuff that's happening in this because I think Reese is my favorite character in this, but his task, what he has to do is crazy. Not only going back in time to fight this machine, but also convincing people around him, especially Sarah Connor. That's the part, like rewatching this, and I'm looking at the scene, like you were saying, the car chase breakdown in the future, and I'm like, bro, there's no way I'm believing this guy unless I see this robot in the flesh for myself. And it's crazy because eventually, you know, things transpire and he wears her down and she does start to believe him. And I think that's a testament to Michael Bihn's performance as Kyle Reese. He's doing this as crazy as it is. He's so earnest. He's not flinching. He's not wavering. He's not even giving you an inkling to doubt or you know what I'm saying? It's just like giving you a minute to, you know, to doubt what he's saying.
He has to coach her up. He is the Mickey to her Rocky, you know what I'm saying? Because he knows ultimately he has to put her in the position, but she's the one who's going to have to go in the ring and fight the war. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows that his fate is sealed. He knows this. And he doesn't even give any indication of that or has no fear of it. You know what I'm saying? He's like one of those people, you know the term, like you run from the storm or run to it. He's a run to it kind of guy.
Because I mean, it's crazy. Like I think that's a testament setting these characters up, especially him seeing the flashbacks of what Earth was in the future, how messed up it is and how desperate they are. And I feel like he might have just been the best guy to do it. Like, I feel like any of those guys we saw out there in that battlefield throwing their little makeshift weapons at these Terminators and these machines would have jumped in that pod. Like, that's how desperate it was. It's like, this is bigger than me.
And it's wild because, you know, we watched this movie and we can't think of anybody else playing the role of Kyle Reese, but he almost didn't get it because when he first auditioned for the role, he was trying to do, you know, mid-stride through auditioning for some other role that he didn't get, but he had a Southern accent. So when he first did this audition, he still kind of carried that accent over, and the producers didn't like that. Cameron didn't like that. They're like, nah, but they gave him a second chance, and he bodied the role.
That would have been interesting, though. Also, I think it also helps too that Biehn was kind of a handsome man at this time, so it seems like that's also helping him convince her. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, yo.
And it sells the romance
like
aspect.
if you sent like some ugly mug and it's like, yeah, you know, these robots, they're like,
yeah, it's like you can save my life, but we ain't having no kid. You know
so that leads me to a dilemma about this to me. So there's this time paradox thing that we get and it makes me wonder. It's like, all right, so was Kyle Reese going to be John Connor's father all along?
Yeah.
Or is that just a result of sending Kyle back in time that it became you know, because it's a weird, it's almost like a weird loop, like that chicken before the egg kind of dilemma.
That's the thing, because see, at the end when she's recording her voice, she was like, you know, I was questioning myself if I should tell you that Kyle Reese is your dad, but I need you to know, I need to honor him because he died for this fight that we're fighting. You know, he lost his life in the process. So I'm from what they're making it seem like is that John Connor's fully aware of Kyle Reese the whole time, but he didn't want Kyle Reese to know because that might question his, you know, his ability to go back. You know what I'm saying? But like, think of it. It was it was seamless. Like John Connor gives Kyle Reese the picture that he had of his mom. So Kyle Reese would constantly.
So he knows he's turning Kyle Reese into his dad.
Yes, but then also gives.
You know what I'm saying? Because it makes you think like.
But then he gives Kyle Reese the thought that Kyle Reese voluntarily went back on his own.
But how is John Connor existing before we do the time thing? Was it another dude that was his dad? Like that's
I guess that's in a different future. I get what you're saying.
Because by
welcome to the Spider-Verse.
Because by sending him back, you're manipulating how the future is going to unfold. And there's an interesting thing too, because after this film, it's not over. We get a sequel, and it comes to this thing where it's like the future isn't written in stone, you know, in a way, but also we're saying some things are inevitable. Yeah. Like no matter what we did, at least the way this franchise goes, Skynet is going to
They're going to win.
Skynet is going to activate and become self-aware. Like it's really wild, man.
That's a thinker. That's one of those ones. But you know, speaking of Skynet,
I don't dwell on that, man. This stuff's too good to you know.
Exactly.
Nitpick.
And speaking of Skynet, Cybernet, and all that other stuff going on, you can't talk about this film without talking about Arnold and his performance. Like, I mean, the way that he made it look so systematic. Like you can tell.
I don't know if he had much choice with that.
No, I'm not talking about his accent or anything. I'm talking about his actions. Putting the thought where when he's looking for him in the when he's got the cop car and he don't got no eyebrows, looks crazy as shit, but he moves his eyes before he moves his head. You know, it gives a real robotic look. Or also the effort that he puts into his gun work. He apparently he studied for like 6 months working on using all these guns to make it so routine so that when he gives, you know, his role, like it looks like everything is just systematic. He's, you know, I'm going to pull the gun out the easiest way, cock load, not look, just be emotionless. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he did that so well, you know what I'm saying? And it almost kind of, because he came off as such a robot, it made his accent or his lack of lines almost make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Speaking of which, man, it's kind of crazy because, he is this really physically imposing figure, man. So I think his accent helps a lot with being this, having a robotic kind of dialect, like you're just learning it, this deadpan delivery, you know, like even the part where I remember he's kind of patching himself up and the guy's knocking on his room, the cleaner guy, and he's like,
"Fuck you, asshole."
Like it shows you the stages that we're at with this, because I feel like the other Terminator, you know, because he can make his own weapons out of himself and it's designed to be more stealthy. This guy's out here, he's gonna be blend in a little bit, you know, but this guy's used, but with a little bit of scrutiny, you'll probably be like, cops might like, hey, what's going on with this guy? This guy looks a little strange. Yeah. But you could tell it doesn't have the finesse to be like, maybe steal some cash or steal a credit card, maybe purchase these things. Don't make waves.
And to your point, that's why they had to rewrite the script a little bit, because Arnold's presence is so demanding. Part of the way that the film got sold to the producers when they went to the execs at Orion, because Cameron had a meeting and Hendrickson actually just shows all dressed up, got the gold grills in and some prosthetics on, just kind of sits down like playing the role of the Terminator. Terminator, and then Cameron comes in and pitches the script, and that's how it worked, you know. And that's why, like, I thought it was cool that they still kept Hendrickson in, even though
he's
has
good.
a smaller
I
role
think
as
he's
the
good
cop.
as the detective.
As a detective,
that's kind of trying to figure some stuff out. He's noticing a pattern of these women.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if he's in that questioning scene where they're interrogating Kyle Reese.
He's in the room. That's actually
he's in the room, but that's actually Earl Bowen playing Dr. Peter. The doc is cool too, man.
Yes, he is.
I kind of don't like him, but he's cool.
He's supposed to be that way.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be likable, which is good. Like even I could say that there's a lot of films you watch. I don't like this character or that, but I do like that means they did their job.
They did their job, exactly. And I love the interaction between him and Kyle Reese when they zoom in on that little screen. He's like, "Why am I talking to you? Shut up! Give me an authority."
I like that he's unlikable, and that's where I think that's where Biehn is throwing this thing on his back.
Yes,
he's the emotional core of this film. Even though you've got Sarah Connor being the victim, but he's the one that's really in the ish. He knows what the stakes are, and even I don't think Sarah's really in it, really onto it until she sees that robot version with all the armor rips away, and then she's like, whoa,
oh, shit just got real,
you know. But he's on it from the beginning, so that interrogation scene always trips me out because he's not lying. He's so sincere, so earnest.
Like, and if you don't believe me, give me someone who does.
And it's hilarious because it's like they're kind of making fun of him. I'm like, bro, he's the only one in this room that knows what time it is. And it's kind of darkly humorous. It really, I'm like, man, y'all finna die, especially after you've already seen this movie.
Oh,
you know, it takes on a different tone. You know,
absolutely. And then it's cool. We get a lot of cool cameos. You know, you get Bill Paxton. You get and then you also get Brian Thompson, who ends up being the knife wielder guy in Stallone's Cobra.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Paxton might be the only guy that's been killed by Terminator, a Predator, and an alien.
Yep,
so that's crazy.
Yep. I want to speak on the one unsung hero, the Nike Vandal, worn by Kyle Reese, and then he also reprises his role the following year in The Goonies, worn by Josh Brolin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because those Vandals, man, you can get them. That's a expensive shoe right now, StockX. They need to re-release those. You know, that'd be cool.
You know, I got a pair that's very similar, but they're not exact, and it just, I need the exact ones.
Yeah, those would go crazy in the streets if they re-release them.
You know, you can't talk about this movie without talking about the special effects. The special effects are what bring the story to life, you know what I'm saying, and what give us all of these visuals that still hold up to this day, you know what I'm saying? And it's brought together by a team, the geniuses of Stan Winston and Gene Warren.
Okay.
And so pretty much Stan Winston was the one who front-runned the design for the T-800, and Gene Warren was the one who led the team that created all the miniatures.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Stan Winston, his design for the T-800 is like, it's so wild because it really, it looks like a skull, but so much more. And I think what really kind of sells it is when we see throughout the film the Terminator getting battle damaged. Like every time, they have an encounter, or he has an encounter with Kyle Reese, he gets more worse off. Like the first time, he's all, his hair's different and stuff. And then after the club shootout scene and everything, and the first car chase, my man's hair gets like, now he's all punked out. He has no eyebrows. And then, that leads us to my favorite special effects scene where Arnold cuts his forearm open and he's like kind of pulling on the tendons to make sure his fingers work. And then you get that gross ass scene where he pops his eyeball out.
Yeah, that's kind of wild because like even when you look at this figure right here, it's biologically it's similar to humans, but he designed mechanical variations of like tendons and the bone structures and stuff like that. So it has a very unique human appearance, man. Like that reveal, even though they're using stop motion to animate him and it looks a little wonky, but that is still a very impressive design. That's one of those things that sold this movie.
Yes.
Cause I saw this on HBO, my mom, my brother, like on a Friday night, I guess, when it premiered, and we're watching this, and I remember looking at that. I'm like, yo, this thing is crazy. Cause it's saying it's a mechanical, and you get teases, like you said, with the eyeball scene, which is weird, though. I think that was a weird way to do that, because it still looks a little fake to me watching it. There's a part where he turns his head, and then it's like a real big dummy head. I'm like, why didn't they just work the eye socket and, on his real, like, but then later on, you get the the cut open scene and you're seeing attendants and you're like, yo, this is like it's selling you on the fact that this is a machine. This is probably one of Stan Winston's biggest early creature designs. He will go on to design the Queen alien. He also did the Predator, Pumpkinhead, like a storied career of just amazing design. He's also a great artist. You know, all these things kind of start with a sketch, you know, and then they brings them to life, you know,
and then
this team.
You know, and then when you got Gene Warren, this movie doesn't work without these miniatures. There are so many shots that are done on this miniature scale. Like everything that we get from the future is all done on small scale miniatures. And, you know, it's really cool because, you know, also the way they got the character design, like you got Kyle Reese looking like he jumped straight off the cover of Metal Gear. You know what I'm saying? Like that was so cool. And he actually, his look inspired the artwork
Solid
for
Snake,
that. Solid Snake. But then, you know, also it's like it brings this dystopian future to life. Like you got all the lasers and the robots. You got the big oversized Wall-E, like the Debo version of Wall-E running over stuff. You got these Mad Max cars.
The piles of skulls and stuff that they're just grinding
and
over.
then it's cool because not only do they, you know, just do a great job with giving us the visuals for this future, but they also use small scale, like the part where they blow the truck up. That is actually a 1/6 scale truck, and you know when you watch it, you can kind of see
the little body on top on the minigun bobbing like as it's jumping, making the jumps.
Absolutely, and you know, real quick. Shout out to the way toys were made in the 80s because at the very beginning you see the Optimus Prime style truck and Arnold runs over it. You see that toy don't even break. It almost pops the tire on the car. Toys used to be made to last.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Like you said, though, to visually see what that future looks like, it doesn't look good.
No.
Even though it looks good, like the way it's executed in this, but it doesn't look like a hopeful future. You know what I'm saying? It looks like humans are living like rats at that point.
Another thing that helps bring the special effects to life is the way this film is shot, you know, the cinematography. And also it really enhances these action scenes. Like, dude, one thing that we have gained to know about the Terminator franchise and we want and we expect is there's going to be some dope ass car chase scenes in this film. And we get that like right out the gate after, you know, I really like how they kind of lead us into it because you get this like, this slow motion situation going on in the club where Sarah's hiding out and the T-800 hasn't been exposed yet, and Reese, he hasn't exposed his intentions, and you get this slow build up to, you know, then Terminator comes out, he starts trying to mow Sarah down. Kyle Reese plugging him with the shotgun, boom, goes through the window. And Kyle Reese makes stealing cars look easy. It's not that easy, but he's making it look real easy. He goes, steals that, I don't know what kind of car he stole at first, but then they just dip in through the streets. He don't even got his headlights on. Like imagine going that fast with no damn headlights on. I'd have had a heart attack, but yet and still. And then, you know, you got Arnold in the cop car, no eyebrows, scrolling, looking, trying to shoot him down and everything on the front of the hood of the car and stuff. I mean, it's just, it's so intense and, you know, it just really moves at such a fast pace. It's like one of those things that just make you wish your couch came with a seatbelt. You know what I'm saying? You feel like you're burning calories while you're watching these scenes.
The music is definitely helping it, man, which is something we could probably get into, man. That score is crazy on this, man. Iconic music, but also really 80s feel, man. Especially when this thing first starts, you're getting hit with those synthesizers, man.
Yes.
But then when we get to those action scenes, man, like that car chase, when, I would say even when Kyle's first encountering the cops, man, in the alleyway, he meets a homeless dude and it looks like he just steals his pants off of him. And then the cops spot him and then he's running from the police into the store and chasing through there where he doubles back to the cop car, gets his first weapon. But the music is definitely driving you, you know, it's pulsing, it's making this thing feel serious, giving weight to the actions that you're seeing on the screen.
It does. And, you know, salute to Brad Fiedel he's the one who came up with the music, synthesized everything. And like the Terminator theme song is almost just as iconic as the Jaws theme. Like you hear that sound, you know what's coming. And I like how they use it in different ways in this film. Like, of course, you know, you get the intro and that sets the tone, right? But then they give us a slowed down version when Kyle Reese dies and it hits a little different. And then they even give you a piano version during the love scene. So it's like, it's nice how they repurpose this song and it carries a different tone each time. And you kind of really just get submerged into what you're seeing on screen.
Shout out to getting some cheeks though, because my man jumped out of the time bubble, no deodorant, running around, you know, for days, police interrogation, and he's still charming enough to get some cheeks. That's wild to me.
Because he knew his objective. He knew his objective. He said nothing is going to stand in his way. Not even no future funk or obscene odor from. Because I mean, they made time traveling look like it hurt.
Yeah,
you know,
that is an interesting difference that I noticed when Terminator hits the ground. He's just nothing really. He just sits there seamless. Probably because the machine doesn't have those parts.
And
that
he even came with an energy bubble that protected him. Carl Reese just got dropped sideways.
Probably because he doesn't have those parts that we have. And that could also been a budgetary thing. We don't got enough to shoot 2 bubbles. We just gonna drop them.
It's funny.
We gonna give you some sparks and just drop
Michael
them in.
Biehn actually said he felt bad for the stunt guy because what they did, they put him up on about a 5-foot ladder and put a little board and then just kept reshooting about 18, 19 times at him rolling off the board 5 feet high, falling, you know, hip first in the concrete. You know, because I mean, this film, it was shot in downtown Los Angeles, shot on site. So I mean, concrete don't got no give. And then you see them, they're like in these dark alleys. You can tell it's like kind of like dirty and just I mean, there's a lot of trash on the sides and stuff. That water is not clean in them streets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you might probably had to get some shots after that.
You know what I mean?
Like, whoa. Yeah, it's wild, man. Yeah, but this thing was sparked, man. This is good enough. It was sparked, like, you know, a bunch of sequels. 5. Yeah, some are better than others.
Absolutely.
I did kind of like the very last one that they put out. I thought that was cool. That's actually, they actually got, you know, Linda Hamilton to come back to, you know, play the character.
I think that's called Dark Fate.
Yeah, Dark Fate was pretty good.
Replay the past.
Yeah, we get to see Eddie Furlong die, which was crazy.
Well, you know, and what I like about this is that this film, even though it stands alone and is iconic in its own right, it paved the way for Terminator 2, which also is like between Terminator 2 and Aliens, these fall into the category of is the sequel better than the first? And I feel like they both kind of hit like they're standalone films. You know what I'm saying? We just, you know, in the second or in the sequel, we're more knowledgeable about what's going on, so they can kind of dive us deeper into wells and kind of you get the other areas.
The exposition is out of the way, so now you can play around with it a little bit more. But also, I mean, it just marks a big tentpole for Cameron's career. You know, this is the film that made him, and you see a lot of elements of his style in this. Even the blue photography that we see in here, I didn't notice it so much when I first saw it as a kid, but rewatching, I'm like, yo, that blue effect that he's putting on a lot of these scenes, like even here, where Reese and her are hiding out in the parking garage, and then you see that come into effect in Aliens, especially T2, you know what I'm saying? And going into Avatar and these other films, it's like a style that other films also adapted from him, and there's so much that sprang forth off of this, man. Him experimenting with the special and visual effects to go on to where he's making films that are defining the standard of visual effect technology. Like what he did in T2 would help us get Jurassic Park and all this other stuff that we're seeing today that's really dipping into mixing the computer, you know, with the physical effects and what could be done on screen.
I applaud his effort, his energy, and him staying focused on his dream. Like, you know, when he came up with this story, he said he was in Rome, I think, working on Piranha 2 or something like that. And he had this dream of this robot torso coming out of the fire and trying to attack him. And he kind of built off that. He kind of built off that. And, you know, for him to, you know, stay consistent and then also, you know, be able to come up with this whole story. And then he sold it to the woman that was the producer. She's credited as the producer. He sold her the rights for $1 just to guarantee that he would direct the film. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, you know, like for him to know, like, okay, I know exactly how I want this film to look. And then, you know, as a director, he was so methodical with the way that he did things. And they said, like, you know, he demanded the best out of the actors and everyone on the crew, you know what I'm saying, to get this premium product in what was started off as a B-rate movie that they thought wasn't going to hit. You know what I mean? So, like, for him to just, you know, stay on course, because a lot of times when we're thrust in these situations of uncertainty, staying on course is hard to do. You know what I mean? But he did that knowing that it was going to come full circle, and this is a testament of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. I would say we could wrap this, man. Make sure you check out Terminator from 1984 again, because I know you've already seen it, but watch it again, bro. It's probably been a while, man. And you know, and take heed to what we've been talking about it. Talking about it, you know, when you rewatch it, consider that, man. Gonna be out of here, folks, man. This has been another episode of Classes of Cinematics. Make sure you turn on the notifications, because I know a lot of you haven't. And make sure you tell your friends about us, because I know a lot of you haven't. Mm-hmm. And make sure you subscribe to us, and we'll be back again with another classic.
Yes, indeed. And this is Bobby Blockbuster. I'll be back on the next show.
Yeah, peace, folks. We out of here.